This is Adam King from Aliens Don't Ring Doorbells, and you're listening to Madness to Creation.
Go ahead, say it.
Welcome to the Madness to Creation podcast, where self-care and music merge. This is Maddie. How are you? And I hope you enjoyed the previous podcast where we broke down the 20th anniversary of Break the Cycle by Stain. Not only we broke down their live stream, but we broke down their album Break the Cycle. And just check that podcast out on Spotify or YouTube, or Geo7, iHeartRadio, any of your favorite digital streaming platform, and just give it a listen and let us know what you think. And on the 42nd episode of the Madness to Creation podcast, we have vocalist Bobby of Saliva. And this was just an absolutely fun conversation. What was so fun about this conversation is that it just felt like we were getting back to normal on things. We talked about family. We talked about tour life. We talked about just essentially creating their EP that came out last Friday entitled Every 20 Years, which came out in Mega Force Records. And all that. Just some memories from those songs, such as Click Click Boom, Your Disease, and all that. And it was just a really fun podcast. And Bobby really shows, it's almost like he's a rock star, which he is, but he's almost like an everyday person. Like, he's just a person that wants to provide for his family and work and everything like that, and all that. And he talked about how his son had COVID in 2020 and how they navigated through that and all that, and also how they played shows when we were really heavy into the pandemic. And actually, I argue that we're still in the pandemic and all that, but we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully we can get back to shows soon. And I hope you guys can enjoy the next concert they go to, and just please be safe. And also, what I really want to encourage you guys to do is not only buy a ticket for the show, but maybe bring an extra $20, $25 and pick up a t-shirt, pick up an album, pick up a freaking bumper sticker, for crying out loud, and help support these bands. Because here's the deal, if we want concerts to return, we're going to have to drop a little extra money. Even if it's just $5 in the tip jar, which might not get you very far these days because of the gas shortage that's going on. Just do that, and it'd be really helpful and all that stuff. And the industry lost, like I said, over $1 billion from last year, and it would just be really helpful. And we just get into this really awesome conversation. And please pick up the Every 20 Years EP on your favorite digital streaming platform, and also check Saliva out on tour in a city near you. Without further delay, here's my conversation with Bobby of Saliva. Take it away, Bobby. Yeah. Welcome to the Madness to Creation podcast, where self-care and music merge. This is Maddie. How are you? Here I have with me is Bobby Amaru of the legendary rock band Saliva. So, Bobby, how are you tonight?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show, and thanks for taking the time. And we were just kind of talking before this podcast interview that you're basically helping kids with homework. Kids are on Zoom and stuff like that. So my question is, like, is school still shut down for your children?
No, I'm in Florida. So we when the whole thing started happening, like March, of 2020, the schools started to kind of shut down and stuff. And then they were out of school, I'd say like mid-March until summer. So a couple of months, about 2.5 months. And then, but I did have to do the whole, we did all the online stuff, and that was very hectic, especially at such a short notice, like when it all happened in the beginning. I don't think anyone really knew how to handle it. Like the teachers, everyone was kind of overwhelmed. And then, they started to probably in the summer, work more towards the right apps and the right, ways to organization, I guess, for this stuff. And then, for us, we weren't sure if our kids were going to be able to go back or if they were going to be homeschooled. We weren't sure, but they were able to go back when the school year started. So they went back last August. But I think some kids had the option. So if some parents felt like they wanted their kids to stay home, then they could. And then, but for us, we were like, we felt it was fine for them to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what was the biggest challenge for you as a family man, helping with the homework and everything like that? And did you find some of the subjects to be rather difficult?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a whole great appreciation for teachers with patience, first of all, and just being able to, imagine, you're in a classroom, you got 30 kids, and you're trying to manage and teach and stuff. It's just, so, with my two, and some things were, good, and they could do, but then I would look at like their math and I'm like, I don't even know what this is, or I don't even remember this. And, school for me was so long ago that it was very difficult, man. A lot of that, and I would like, then my wife, she's got like several degrees, and just, she was always the kid in class, like front of the classroom, hand raised, knew every question. So, all this stuff I don't really get, but then she's like, oh yeah, it's this and it's that, and she like knows it. I'm like, am I stupid? Am I an idiot? Like, do I just like, you know what I mean? But the thing is my brain is over here, and hers can be, right here. And she understands, the whole math and like all that stuff. I mean, I'm good with like, the language arts and the English and all that kind of stuff, and science I can help with, but anything math, I'm lost.
Oh yeah, I definitely hear you. And I was going to tell you, like, for my day job, to make a living, I'm a special needs teacher by day. And right. I especially found it absolutely to be challenging during the shutdown and everything like that. And
I can imagine.
It was just scrambling, just trying to find apps and stuff like that. And then I realized, you know what, I'm not going to create the wheel for the kids, especially with special needs kids that depend upon that structure and everything like that. So what was like the biggest challenge for you, like for yourself, whether it's making your music or as an individual, like coping with this COVID-19 pandemic? Like, what did you learn about yourself, and what was difficult, like coping?
Life is definitely, fragile. I mean, you start seeing, people dropping like flies, and people getting sick, and the awareness, I think the whole awareness of like how we should take care of our bodies and distance and wash your hands and practice better hygiene and stuff like that. And, so there were struggles, man, with just keeping everything, in the house when you're around each other so much. I mean, our son, he got COVID last year.
Oh, is he okay?
But it was like the symptoms for him, some of the other neighborhood kids got it too. They had all kind of got it, and it wasn't really anything. So when it happened, we were like, oh, well, let's get to know each other for 2 weeks straight, so it was like, we were kind of, forced to be in here, but we all got tested and none of us had it. Mm-hmm. My wife and me and our daughter, we didn't have it, but he did. And, it's just, but we don't really, we're not scientists, so we don't know like the whole, the gist of how that happens, how you're like, because we didn't like alienate ourselves or anything or tell him to go in his room for 14 days. We all hung out, and I was like, we're just all going to get it. Let's just all deal with it and get it. And it never happened. We got tested like 5 or 6 times, Mayo Clinic. My wife's probably been tested like 20 times, because anytime like she felt like, oh God, I got a sore throat, let me go get tested. And they shoved that thing like way in your brain. Like, it's not like
I think it legit touched my brain at one time.
Yeah. Like when you sometimes you do the CBS or whatever, they'll just tell you to do it yourself. Like, no, you go to Mayo Clinic, man, they got the bendy thing. They shove it like way in there. I mean, they're testing right, and we never actually had it that we were aware of, at least when we got tested. Like, I think I've been tested like 6 or 7 times. She was tested like 20, like in the whole, year or whatever. But, we just never had it. But he was the only one that at least tested positive for it. But it was weird though for him, because where, and as a parent, and other parents would probably relate to this too, if they got their kids tested. I mean, I know a lot of parents or whatever, they never got tested at all because they never had symptoms. So they felt like, well, I'm not going to get tested, but I'm going to point the finger at this person over here if they have it, even though that person's probably being tested, a bunch of times.
Oh, definitely.
So I feel like, people can carry it and not know it. So that's why we would still get tested, if anything were to happen, because you just never knew. It was kind of difficult as a parent to watch your son and daughter have to get that up their nose like 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
and his kept coming back that he was like positive for it, which was like freaking me out because he had not one symptom anymore. Like the worst that he had was the first night. He said he had a headache and a runny nose, and that was it. And then, his fever, it was like 101. And then the next day when, we got tested and all that stuff, and then, he was positive or whatever, he didn't have a fever anymore. And then, so we hung out 2 weeks, and he felt better after 3 days, 4 days. I think kids do bounce back a lot faster if they have it, which makes sense. But him still having a positive result 3 weeks later was like weird. That was very strange, I thought.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a very uneasy time for you as a parent.
Yeah, because he had to get the thing up his nose 3 times, and that's not cool because it's like, so it's like kind of scars your kids, to get it done like that, and then it's like getting a shot. Kids don't want to go get a shot or a needle. You know what I mean? They're afraid of that stuff, and they don't. So you're having to try to like calm them down and let them know. And then you got Mayo Clinic people all in like like hazmat gear, like they're ready to go. Like, it's just pretty bizarre, man. But
yeah,
that's the kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. It almost feels like we're living like in some type of science fiction movie right now. And I almost feel like we're all like scientific experiments right now. And like you see these mad scientists doing research on us as a society and stuff. So,
what was that Contagion movie? We watched it when all this started happening.
Oh yeah.
And it was like a movie from 2011 or 2009 or something. I'm like, how did they note that? This is exactly what's going on. This is crazy, man. It's
almost like you combine Contagion with Minority Report and 1984. Yeah. And like that's America in a nutshell anymore. And it's a little bit frightening. And like how in your band Saliva, how did you guys keep separated from each other, and how difficult was it to not be able to tour? I bet that about killed you guys.
We still did some shows.
Kidding?
Yeah, we didn't tour, but we went to Alaska in July. We fished, did all this stuff. We did 2 shows in Alaska, and people were cussing us the whole way as if like, y'all are bad. And why would you do this to the world? And we're like, man, they're allowing shows. We're going to go play. And, we have families, and, it's like people have a choice. They don't have to come to the show. They didn't have to come to the show. And
it's not like you held a gun to their head and said, you will buy a ticket.
They were in like a 6,000 capacity field, and they were only allowed to sell 2,000 tickets. They sold 2,000 tickets. And it was crazy because when we showed up, we'd never been to Alaska. And, a place like that is very off the map, So they kind of had their own rules and their own stuff going on up there. And, we got to go fishing and do all that stuff, which was great and cool. And it's a good experience. Weather was awesome. And, when we showed up to play, there's 2,000 people, and they're packed in, and there's not a single mask. There's none of that going on. And then when we played, man, they were like crowd surfing, going nuts. And the only thing I kept thinking when I was singing, I was thinking this on stage, I was like, oh my God, we're going to be like on TMZ Monday, man. We're going to be like all over the place. But Blabbermouth is going to be, what I could give 2 shits about Blabbermouth, but those kind of plays, all that stuff that, I knew we were going to be on all of that, just and it never happened. No, it's like, it was almost like nobody knew unless you had to be there. And I mean, I've got some videos on my phone. It's like a total, you would think that you were at some hardcore punk rock show. I mean, people were going nuts. And it was like, is this reality? But it was. And you know what? When we left, they were all talking about how like the cases were down and like all this stuff. And I'm like, I mean, who, like, once again, I'm not a scientist. I mean, who really knows? I just didn't really, you know, and then we did like Sturgis. You know, we did Full Throttle. Full Throttle didn't really get a whole lot of heat. Like the Buffalo Chip did. Buffalo Chip got a lot of heat, like press and news and stuff. But where we kept a low profile. So yeah, we did play some shows. We didn't like tour and make it like public or anything like that, but we did go play some places. And so, you know, my guys are like, you know, you know, my drummer Paul and my guitar player Wayne, you know, they're like OG guys, and they've been through a lot of crazy stuff in the 20 years of Saliva. So,
I'm sure
to them it was like, if I die from this, I mean, then I die from this. You know, that it would be, you know, out of all the things I've done in my life, like, you know, and it would, what a coincidence, I guess, you know, but but you know, we're respectful, man. And we, you know, we wear masks and we wash our hands and we do our part. And, you know, we're not a political band. We never have been. We all have our own beliefs and we keep them to ourselves. And, we play rock and roll. We like to play music, like play rock and roll. So we go out and do a show, you know, when promoter calls and Sturgis or Alaska, like, hey, we can have shows, you know, here you go. We're going to pay you. And actually, you know what? We're going to pay you more, you know, because we want you to come. And it's just like, what do? You know, you're kind of like,
you still have to make a living, you know?
Yeah. But then it's like, people start trying to get in your head about you're not doing the right thing. You know, meanwhile, they're sitting at home collecting unemployment. It's like, yeah, we're just, you know, there's always going to be somebody with an opinion, somebody telling you what you should be doing. And, it's just, that's just the world we live in, man.
Yeah. And based upon the world we live in, is social media not the most toxic thing sometimes? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's just getting worse. It's only going to get worse. It's, you know, I feel like the big part of social media brings out the worst in things like racism and like just other things, is everybody's so negative. Everybody's extremely negative because it's easy for them to, you know, take this thing right here and type on it, you know, and it's just, I never really understood it. But I mean, think about like when there was none of that and everything, like with music, bands were selling records and artists were able to go and tour and have a mystique, you know what I mean, about them. It's like, now you can like find out like, you know, Steven Tyler's like home buying history and like all this crazy shit. It's like,
I know,
dude, it's just, you find out Lenny Kravitz's credit score, you know, it's just, you know, or find out how much somebody's worth. And it's just things like that. It's become just really, really toxic and, you know, not really, there's no privacy in even, and take celebrities out of it, take, you know, people that, you know, high profile people out of it. I mean, it's like your space is invaded daily. Like, and a lot of people that aren't celebrities, I think like that. They like that attention, you know, people will do selfies all day or like, hey, here's me with, you know, the new chicken sandwich from Popeyes, you know, or whatever, hashtag 20 things, you know? And I think, you know, it's a lot of, people, you know, people they have their shell and they're inside and you know, maybe it makes them feel good, makes them feel better or feel like, you know, worth something if somebody likes it. And that's great. That's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, in my opinion, it's all positive, but it's the people that that want to be negative to be negative, instead of just, celebrating things or being positive. There's always those negatives. And I guess it's just, the world's not perfect. And if it was, that would be weird too. So you're going to have that.
Yeah, definitely. And like with my personal social media accounts, I've been taking time to celebrate others' accomplishments. Like for example, I had a friend in college who is a professor down at Nichols State University, and he just recited this poem by Langston Hughes, and I was just like, this is so incredible. I had to share it, and I just wanted to shout him out publicly on how proud I was of him for the man he's became, and so do you feel like sometimes you have to step away from social media, whether it's in your personal accounts or in a band account or something like that? Is it really difficult to stay neutral on things sometimes? Like,
I mean, yeah,
especially when you got to protect your brand,
Yeah. I mean, when I got in this band, you're replacing a singer. So, they had a lot of success with that guy. So I already knew it was expected that there was going to be, backlash, or there was going to be haters. There's going to be, people that didn't like it or whatever. And I always just tried to use the analogy of like Coke or Pepsi. Like, what I mean? It's like, it's which one you like, one or the other. It doesn't, some people like both. I mean, but there's always going to be that, everybody has their own opinion of what they think and how they feel about a certain, I think it's all about the music. It should have, that's the way we try to look at it, is, I wasn't coming in to replace somebody, to be them, or to try to do better, or you know what I mean? It was never anything like that, and, but getting in, I just wanted to kind of continue the brand, and there was a lot of drama in the previous 10 years. And I think the band was looking for a fresh start, and to get away from the drama and get away from the baggage, and try to have a good business model and play music while being happy versus, all this other crap, but you're miserable, and, so with social media, there's always the one guy or the one person that's going to say something negative. And I just don't let it bother me. I think from the start, I had that mentality of I knew that was expected. So it wasn't like I was shocked or, appalled by what someone says, but what is funny to me sometimes is, sometimes people will send you comments or send you things like friends or whatever. They'll screenshot something and say, dude, look at what this guy said. And the funniest part is always when someone thinks they know what's happening within your band. Like and that's the problem with social media, probably with a lot of people, is that they want to feel so attached to what you're doing and in the circle that they almost it can make people crazy. You know what I mean? It's almost like they're in the band or something, but they'll say things like, oh yeah, man, so-and-so's coming back. He's working on a record. I already know about it. I heard about it, man. It's crazy. Yeah, he'll be back. They're doing a tour. They're gearing up for the tour. And it's like, what are you smoking, dude? But there's always that. Those are the ones that I always find kind of comical.
Oh, me too.
But when the person thinks that they know exactly what your band's doing and what y'all are up to and stuff, it's just. But as far as this sucks or it'll never be the same, or yeah, you're right. It's not going to be the same. But we're happy. We're doing what we're doing, and I think there's a lot more to this than all the negative and all that. I mean, and it's we're celebrating the 20th anniversary, and we're celebrating that record that changed a lot of people's lives. And that's what we're doing. I mean, and it just so happens to be my 10th year too, in the band. And it's just, it definitely, we try to keep it positive, man.
Yeah, definitely. And I was gonna say that's what people I think really appreciate about the music Saliva is that you guys keep it positive, and you're releasing every 20 years, May 7th through Megaforce Records. And did I get the date right, first of all?
That's it.
Awesome. And so like when you perform songs that naturally were released by the previous singer, like what is like your mindset like in terms of performing somebody else's song, like when you're replacing somebody else? I don't know if that question makes sense, but like
no, I mean,
do you put like your own? I naturally put your own spin on it. So how does somebody go about doing that? Because if I tried to do it, I would be honest with you, I would probably try to copy the lead singer, and naturally you put your own spin on it, which I really appreciate about what you have done with this EP. So what's like
I had a head start, so
fair enough.
I've been singing those songs for 10 years. So
right.
Essentially they kind of have become a part of me in a way, and with singing them night after night, I mean, I don't even know what I've probably done 1,000 shows, or something like.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we usually do 100 a year, at least. So, I mean, and sometimes more, but I mean, so yeah, I've done 1,000+ shows, and when it's almost become second nature, and what I didn't want to do was stray far away from what was there, because you're not going to change what those 5 guys did, the magic and the vibe. I mean, everything that went into that record is why it did so well. So it was all about, let's just re-record some of the songs that we play live that are fan favorites, and let's just release an EP and for the fans for the 20th anniversary. Let's just do something different, we want to re-record every song front to back. We didn't want to do that. We just want to do something simple, basically throwing it up. And we're going to release some vinyl, release some cassettes just for promo and things like that. But it was never, because I think some people think that it's like a money grab or a cash, but no, there's none of that. It's all like the same dudes that wrote the songs are the same dudes getting paid,
Mm-hmm.
So it benefits them if anything. So, but I wanted to do it for the fans. And, I know a lot of people would ask me, especially when we went to like Europe and went to some other countries and stuff. They are like big into that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, you should re-record some of the songs, kind of like with the guy Journey, how he did stuff like that. Like to, I guess some like show people that you can sing it or whatever. And that was an idea, but it wasn't like, that's why, but that's just another example of, within my 10 years of hearing people ask me that question, or are you ever going to record the songs with your voice on them? And my answer typically was always no. Like, I just never really thought about it, but, and then I think this was the perfect opportunity to do it for, the anniversary deal.
Yeah. So did Saliva do any, like, naturally you guys played shows in Alaska and Sturgis. Did you guys do any live stream shows?
Yeah, we just did one from Las Vegas. We did one April 9th. Yeah, it came out April 9th. I think we're going to do another one. So we did that one, and it was pretty cool. It was just a learning experience because we hadn't done one, and you don't know what you're going into. And well, first of all, the company that we did it with, they were great. They were awesome. But when we flew out to Vegas, we just had they put us in this room, and the room was like really small. It was like a 30 by 30 room, and it had like all the gear and everything. But I mean, there's no crowd. I mean, you're just playing for cameras, a sound guy and a lighting guy. That's it. There's like 3 dudes in the room other than you. And then, and they're trying to make this like spectacle with the lights and all this stuff. But it's hard to get a vibe because, the guy was telling us, we kind of did our thing, and he was like, yeah, man, you can crowd interact too. Like you're interacting with people at home. And I'm like, I don't, that just doesn't, I don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? The invisible man there, I just can't. I just can't. It's hard. It's harder that way. So it almost felt more like a practice, and that's something that we haven't done in like 8 years. So we don't ever practice, but we did it, and I think it turned out pretty good for what it was. And but it was a learning experience, because another thing is we didn't have it was no real PA. Everything was like all in-ear monitors and like wedges, and so it felt thin. It didn't feel like you were feeling that PA in that bottom, like on, like a big stage. So a lot of that was just kind of different too. And so if we do it again, it'll be different. It'll be more of like PA, stage lighting, all that stuff will be cool, but we'll probably have a crowd. Even if it's 50 people, there's going to be people in front of us, because that I can handle,
Oh, definitely.
Guy doing this the whole time. Like I couldn't really.
Oh, I think I would get anxiety if somebody constantly had a camera on me. I mean, I honestly don't know how you guys do it. Like when people are filming you and stuff, I'd be like, get the damn camera away from me, And that's just me.
I'm an introvert, man. So I'm not really. I'm kind of the quiet guy until I'm on stage. On stage, it's like a light switch, and I can get. And when there's a big crowd and all that stuff, I can. It's like almost animalistic, but room, 2 guys in it with cameras in your face, little nervous.
Yeah, definitely. So what is the craziest thing you've ever done on stage? Like
almost
what is it?
Fall, probably.
Almost fall?
Yeah. But the craziest thing I've ever done on stage?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've seen some crazy things done, but as far as me personally on stage, and I've done some hanging from rafters and things like that, but nothing too crazy, I would say. I've gotten out on the crowd, stood on barricades, done things like that. Those are like fun things. I always try to interact with the crowd as much as possible. I would say, like, as far as crazy though, I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of it's probably, I don't know that I remember. I used to drink. I don't drink anymore. I quit like 2.5 years ago. So.
Oh, congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
And then so when I was doing that and stuff, I probably did crazier things.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got sober, you kind of had to we go on stage, sober for the first time, and the second time, and even first few months was kind of like learning how to ride a bike again. Yeah, the vocals and all that's still there, but the whole communication part with people, that's where it got different, became a little different for me.
Yeah.
You figure it out.
Definitely. And I want to congratulate you on your sobriety and everything. That's such a huge step for people to take. And absolutely. So what is the biggest thing that you learn about yourself since you became sober? Like, what is something that you really appreciate in life since sobriety? Well,
the importance of life, and the importance of your body and your being healthy, and really my wife and kids. I mean, that's really that's the biggest factor in my, that's the biggest part of my life. And this music thing is great and I love it and I'm doing it, but outside of that, like, my family is everything. That's kind of, and I did it for myself and for them, and for the right reasons, and I went to my doctor, and at the time I was, I was 35. I just turned 35, and I was like, man, I think I'm gonna quit drinking. That's what I told him, and he was like, now is the best time to do it. He says, because your blood work's good, you're fine, you're good, no liver issues, none of that stuff. And he said, but if you come back to me in 10 years, that could be a different story, So he said, now's the best time to do it. So I took that initiative to make it like, well, this is actually probably the smart play, because I have heard stories about people in a similar situation, you know, in their 30s, late 30s. And then, you know, they didn't quit. And then in the 40s, it was like, oh, their body had done more damage to their body, you know? So, but yeah, it was probably I learned a lot about myself and learned a lot about the, you know, how, valuable, you know, your life is, and grateful, you know, I am to have the things that I have. And, you know, a lot of times when you're in the zone and it's like a blur when you're on tour and everything's just kind of a blur. You don't really stop and think about it, you know, but when you're sober, you're thinking about everything, you know, you're like, and that's the thing is that with people that have, you know, problems and stuff, and they don't want to deal with them and they want to just kind of hide from it, and they'll drink because they can kind of put it to bed for a minute. And then when they wake up, there's the problems, right? You know, and then maybe you've added another problem to it too. And now it's like you deal with your problems like sober. It's just, so it can be tough. It really can be.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes because when you would typically just start drinking when you were having issues, then you don't do that now. You just try to address it.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, it takes such a strong person to not only to admit that you have a problem, but to conquer that problem. So, so what I ask people, is like, instead of saying, what's your plans 25 years from now? What do you want? I know tomorrow's Friday, but what do you want to accomplish through next week? What are like some short-term goals that you have? Like, do you have like daily goals that you have in your life, or like?
Yeah, well, my wife and she's opened an IV drip bar. So it's a franchise called the Drip Bar. And
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. And it was kind of one of the things that she wanted to do. And then when this pandemic stuff happened, it made even more sense to do it, you know, because you can, a lot of people with pre-existing conditions like cancer patients and people with dementia and other things that this can really help them, you know, to, you know, putting the right vitamins and stuff, the vitamin therapy, you know, in your body. And so that's the goal, man. The goal is to keep helping her with that, and you know, focus on, you know, helping people. And I think it's a good business that she started. And you know, so, but that's what I'm doing, because we're opening in June. So it's been like, so my next week's going to consist of more stuff with that. And then we have a show in Hattiesburg, Mississippi this Saturday. It's an outdoor show that we're doing. And then that's it though. So that's kind of what our touring schedule looks like at the moment. There's like a show here, 2 shows here, 3 shows here, 1 show here, 2. So everything's kind of spread out in the summer, and a lot of it's all places where people can have shows, and you know, a lot of outdoor stuff.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I plan on being at the show June 4th in Keokuk, Iowa. Expected to be a wild time. Town is about maybe 10,000 people, but people get down to rock there. And so, have you ever been to Keokuk, Iowa?
Yes, we've been near it too. We played in what's the show that they have, the River Show or River?
Yeah,
something?
That's up in Fort Madison.
Fort Madison.
Yep.
Yeah. So we did that 2 years ago in Fort Madison.
Yeah.
And I know that's near that area, because the guy, the promoter from the place that we're playing, that's what he said. He said, "Oh yeah, you're right near Fort Madison where you guys played." So
yeah, awesome. So like, do you think shows are going to be different now that we're kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel of this pandemic? Are you going to see like a paradigm shift, or do you think people are just going to get back to their normal lives like nothing happened?
I don't think anyone will ever get back to the way things were, because you're subconsciously going to be thinking about, oh, did I wash my hands? Oh, do I need a mask? Oh, like when do we get past that point? You know? And I don't know that. I don't know when that is, or once again, I'm not a scientist, you know?
Right.
So I just, because I don't know, you know, I know that You know, I think that shows will happen, of course. Yeah, I think they're happening. They will happen. All the Live Nation, all the big stuff, like, you know, the crew tours and all that, like the stadium stuff, that stuff might not happen unless the bands are going to play for a lot less money. Because if they can only put in, if they're trying to sell 25,000-30,000 tickets a show, but they can have their capacities have to be adjusted. So then now they can only sell 5,000 tickets. You're going to tell me Motley Crue and they're going to take less money? Nope, they won't. So
yeah, you're right.
Those shows won't happen if that's the you know, the way, if you know, but at full capacity, those shows will happen.
Oh, definitely. So do you prefer performing in front of like more of like club, smaller auditorium atmospheres, or do you prefer like festivals when you play?
I like them all, man. I mean, I
it doesn't make a difference.
Festivals are not a lot of pressure. They're a lot easier. Like, I don't mean easier, but like less pressure, because you're playing 30 minutes, 40 minutes or something. And then you're done. You watch other bands and just kind of hang out. And they're always fun, you know, like big family reunion type stuff. The clubs in your own shows are great too, because you're interacting with your crowd and your people and stuff. But there's more pressure as far as like, you know, you have to load in, you got to set up, you got to sound check, you do this, and then you make sure that you know, do your best putting on a great show. But I mean, I like them all. I'm grateful that I can step on a stage and play. So it's
definitely
no complaints here.
Definitely. And I am so looking forward to having shows come back. I might literally cry at the first show I come back to after COVID. It's one of those things that music is like my rock. And so are there, like, let's say a couple more questions I have for you. I'm actually writing a book as we speak called Lighthouses in the Darkest Distances. And basically it's going to be about how we get through when times get difficult. It's going to be like, it could be kind of comparison to Chicken Soup for the Soul, basically. And where I'm going to write, like, just have different, like, mental health things in there and stuff like that. So one question I have for you is, what is a soundtrack to your life? Whether it's a song, an album, an artist, band, what gets you through when times get difficult? Like, is there a certain song or album that gets you through?
Man, well, I grew up like in a household of music. So music was like everywhere, you know, and so I got introduced to a lot of bands and a lot of artists and everything from, you know, Sabbath to Zeppelin to REO Speedwagon to, you know, Fleetwood Mac to
Fleetwood. I love them.
Pat Benatar to, you know, and then it starts to change into the, you know, later 80s and like the 90s and Alice in Chains and all that stuff, got into that, and Seal, and like it's just broad, you know. Oasis is one of my favorite bands, you know, and you know, so I can't pinpoint one song in particular. Mm-hmm. There are songs though that I'll say sometimes, I'll go, man, that song I could hear that song once a day, every day for like forever, you know, and there's songs like that don't get old. And that's the beauty of music with people, is that if a song can touch somebody like that, because there's a lot of songs that I don't feel that way about, but there are certain songs that, classic stuff or whatever, that's like, man, I could hear that song like all the time, and it just doesn't get old, you know? Mm-hmm. So some of that stuff, I'm trying to think like off the top of my head, you know, it's hard to pinpoint one, man.
I hear you. I hear you.
I would say I find myself drawn to a lot of the 90s stuff. I think it's probably because I was older when I was growing up in the 90s versus like in the 80s when I was like a kid, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think when you're teens, the Alice in Chains type bands and the, like, Candlebox. I mean, like, that's like Far Behind, like songs like that. I could hear that song like once a day, and it's like, it's a great song. You know what I mean? Like front to back, lyrically, everything. Fell on Black Days,
Oh man.
like songs like that are very easy to the ear,
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I mean, I love Pantera. I love all the heavy stuff and all that too. But as far as songs that soundtrack to like my life or whatever, it's just a lot of, there's a lot of colors. If I had to say, you got this, and you blend them all together, and you get I guess you get a rainbow or something. That's because I like a little bit of everything. And it really depends on the mood or of the day. And, there's some bands that I do like that, like I like Thrice is a pretty cool band that's got some good stuff.
Oh my God, I love Thrice.
Yeah. And they put out a record like 2 records ago that's like front to back, I think one of like the best records, in the past decade. And then, there's stuff like that. I mean, there's some newer stuff. My wife and I like this group called Gunship. They're from like the UK, and it's kind of like 80s synth pop, but it's kind of dark. So
is it kind of like synthwave, or is it like?
But it has really cool, like modern, like a lot of people like talk about this band. Like Kat Von D would talk about this band all the time, and like certain people would talk about this band. But it's like you have to know who they are. Like, because a lot of people, there's just so much out there. It's hard to discover these kind of artists until it comes across your radar. And I think it came across our radar when we were trying to find like Halloween music or something to play, like at our Halloween party. And then some of these songs just started playing because it kind of sounds like, something off a Lost Boys soundtrack or something. It's like, so when you hear that kind of stuff and I'm able to discover these bands. And then there's a group called, I like a lot of stuff like from over like UK and like, like Stereophonics and like Oasis. And there's a band called Don Broco that's pretty
Oh, they're incredible, aren't they? Don Broco.
Yeah. So like some of their stuff, like I listen to it and it's just like vibe, and that's all like the newer stuff that I'm kind of into. But I like Royal Blood and things like that. But as far as like the old classic stuff, I mean, there's just too long of a list,
Yeah, the list that you gave me is actually pretty incredible, and I think I'm gonna dive into all those bands. Just take a weekend off and just jam some music. I want to do that one weekend. And so every 20 years is coming out May 7th. First of all, what's your favorite song to sing on that? On those, and secondly, where can people pick it up and everything like that? Anything you want to cover? I'm just gonna give you the floor on that.
So as far as like my favorite. So singing them, or we're all basically, I treated them all the same.
Okay.
I still think that probably my favorite one on the EP re-recorded will probably just have to be Your Disease, just because it's like, that's like the song, that's how I first heard the band. So I have like the connection there. But and then yeah, I mean, that one was fun. They were all fun to do. And then you can get it all the streaming outlets. We're doing like a vinyl and cassette like run, maybe some CDs, a few CDs, and then but mostly just digital world. So
awesome. And what else would Bobby? What else would you like to add in regards to Saliva? Because I know you got homework to do and all that stuff. So
yeah. I mean, we're still here, man. We're still kicking. We're alive, and the band is in a happy place, And I know there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world and the pandemic and all that stuff, but just try to stay positive. That's the only thing we can do. We're all in the same boat, We're all in this together. Just try to one day at a time, and respect others and just do the right thing. I think if more people would respect others and just like do their part, and I don't mean by doing your part by just wearing a mask. I mean like doing your part by being a good person. You know, that is going to go further. You're going to see so much more unity and so much more, you know, people. It's just people could just have some compassion for things, you know, for human life. You know, it's just, you know, crazy. I look at, you know, every day there's someone going into a store and just shooting people for no reason. It's just like, I don't understand it. I don't get it.
That breaks your heart, doesn't
I don't
it?
think that has anything to do with controlling guns or any of that stuff. I think it has to do with the individual and mental illness or whatever that's going on in that person's, you know. And I think that needs to be looked at more, you know, and we need, and that once again, somebody could have been a terrible person to him, you know, or, you know, who knows? And, you know, I feel like at least if people are being kind to others and respectful to others, it doesn't hurt. At least you know that you're doing the right thing and doing a good thing. So.
Absolutely. And honestly, I wish there was more people like you in the world that had that same mindset, because I could tell that you're a game changer, that you help make the world a better place. So thank you for that.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's it. I've got kids and, you know, I've got a wife, and it's like when you have a family, it's like you want to protect your family. You want your family to be safe. And, but it also like you want to raise your kids to know like right from wrong and to be respectful and to, you know, you go to school to learn and make friends. You don't go to school to cut up in class and, you know, make enemies or, you know, make fun of some kid because his shoes aren't, you know, clean or something like that. Like that does not in my household, man. No way. You know, and
absolutely.
And I think, you know, it's just, but not everybody's like that. Everybody's got different views and different ways they look at things, and, you know, but I guess you just try to do the best you can. That's all we can do.
Yeah, definitely, Bobby. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me on the Madness Creation podcast. And just for the listeners, every 20 years, EP is out May 7th through Mega Force Records, and download on your favorite streaming platform, and also pick it up either vinyl or cassette or CD. And thank you so much, Bobby.
All right, bud. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, this was so much fun. And I would love to follow up with you sometime. And